Why do you think these are not recommended for you before you take a driving test? On this video, we're going to go through 10 things that you shouldn't do if you want to pass your driving test. Let's get into it. You'd be surprised how many people actually turn up for the driving test late. The examiners are likely to not take your test. So you have to remember, on the day, there are lots of people that they have to see. And if they take you when you're late, it means it has a knock-on effect on other people's tests. And then therefore, somebody in the end might not be able to do their test. So they're very, very strict when it comes to timekeeping. Sometimes if you're maybe 5 or 10 minutes late, they might give you a chance, depending if they can do it or not. Make sure you know exactly where you're going to go and arrive on time. The driving test itself is very, very intense. So you want to go there as fresh as possible. Some people go there tired because they haven't slept the night before. This is a really bad idea. The night before your test, do not go to sleep late or don't spend all night playing games, because it's going to have a big impact on your test day. You need to go there with a fresh mind, well rested if possible. I know sometimes it's quite hard to relax when you're nervous about the next day, but try not to stay up too late so that when you go for the test the next day, you're nice and fresh. And talking of staying up late and being fresh, avoid binge watching lots of driving videos the day before your test day. Now, there's lots of information out there that's sometimes a bit conflicting. Binging on the day before your test could make things worse. If you already know how to drive and your instructor has put you forward for the test and they know how you drive and they think you're good enough to pass the test, that means you don't need to get any extra information the day before. I'll give you an example. One of my learners was doing pretty well and he had a test the next day, and he just happened to watch this video that said, if it's raining or if it's wet, you need to drive slowly. But he took that as go slowly everywhere. So there was a national speed section and he was doing like 30, I think. Remember, national speed on a single carriageway is going to be 60 miles per hour, but he was doing 30 because it was wet. And he hadn't done this before in our lessons, but because he watched that video, it put him in the wrong kind of mindset. So just be careful what kind of videos you're watching the night before, and definitely don't binge watch them because you want to go there with a fresh mind. Which leads to the next one, which is don't have a really long lesson before your test. The test itself is really, really mentally draining, and a lot of people come out of it with a headache, stressed out. It takes a lot of mental strain to pass the driving test. If you do it properly, your head's going to hurt a little bit. So the last thing you need is to have a long lesson or maybe a few hours lesson. Some people will try to do like 2-hour lesson, 3-hour lesson before they go for the test, but that's going to drain you out mentally. You should go there fresh. What I do with my learners is on the test day, just do a warm-up drive. So it's not really a lesson as such. It's just driving from their house to the test center, which usually is about 20 minutes or less, and then have a rest, park up the car, maybe do some show me, tell me questions, and then go for the test then. We're not doing like a long intensive lesson. By the time your test day comes, you should already know how to drive enough to pass the test. So you shouldn't be using that day as extra lessons. It's more just as a warm up to get you used to the car again and then go for your test. Which leads me to my next point, which is making sure that you're ready for your test. And one of the best ways to do that is by doing mock tests. Do not go to your test unless you've done a mock test. Some instructors, for some reason, don't really believe in mock tests or don't think they're important. But believe me, for a lot of my learners, the first time I took them on the mock test, they fell to pieces because they've never had that experience of somebody marking them. And I imagine that with a real examiner on a real test, that's going to be quite scary. So to get over that initial shock of being marked, it's really good to do mock tests. One, they tell you how good you are. Also, they tell you how bad you are, areas you need to work on, and it gets you used to somebody sitting next to you marking as well, which is a really weird feeling when all you've done before was do lessons when somebody's telling you, oh, watch out for this, be careful of that, and giving you feedback. So you're getting used to driving on your own under test conditions, so that then when you go for your test, it's going to be less of a shock when somebody's now sitting next to you marking your driving. If your instructor doesn't want to do it, you can reach out to another instructor and tell them, look, I just want to do a mock test just to see where I'm at, so that you can see what you need to work on before you actually go for your test. If you are going to go for a mock test, try to do it in the area that you're going to do your test in, which leads me to my next point, which is avoid, if you can, going to a random test center. I know nowadays it's quite tricky to find a test, so some people are booking some places that they've never even heard of before, but it's not the best idea if you want to pass first time, because I know people say, if you can drive, you should be able to drive anywhere. That's true, but on your tests, so many little things can go wrong. Like this junction, for example. If you don't know it and if you're not from the area, lots of people get it wrong. Even experienced drivers will go and position themselves in the wrong lane. If that was you on your test, you'd fail. But you'd only know that if you're really paying attention, or if you've done that junction before with an instructor and they've told you, look, this is a particular place that people fail. There are some junctions and roundabouts that are a bit weird. So what I would recommend is, if you can, always choose a place that you know kind of well, that you can practice in, that's not too far from your home, so that you can practice before you go for your test. So this one might sound a bit crazy, but I've seen it happen so many times where people turn up to the test without a car. Do not turn up to the driving test center without a car. If you have an instructor, you take their car with you, and then you're going to do the test in their car. If you have your own car, you can take somebody with you that's been supervising you, maybe a parent or a friend who's got a license. Check out my other video which explains what exactly you need to do if you need to take your own car and what to look out for. Your test will also not go ahead if you don't have your license with you. I've seen it happen so many times, even in some of my learners as well. On the day, they don't have their license with them, or they can't find it. You will not be able to do your test without your provisional license. Make sure the days before, or the days leading up to your test, you keep it somewhere safe, somewhere that you know you can just access it quickly. And then that way, on the test day, you're not trying to find it in some random place. This one might be a bit surprising for some, and it might be obvious for other people, but I always recommend that you do not drink any energy drinks or coffee before your test. And I'll tell you why. On the test day, your heart is going to be pounding most of the time anyway, because it's quite a stressful thing to do. Unless you're one of those really cool people who are not fazed by anything, it's going to be a stressful experience. And drinking coffee and caffeine-rich energy drinks is going to make things much worse. You're going to be feeling way more nervous than normal. So avoid drinking those kind of drinks. Drink something like tea or decaffeinated coffee. Just don't drink any caffeine-heavy drinks, because you're going to be feeling a lot more jittery, a lot more nervous than normal. So avoid those kind of drinks. Hopefully your test is going to be a bit more relaxed than it would be if you were to consume those drinks. And talking of consuming things, do not do any sort of drugs or heavy drinking the day before your test. Let's say, for example, you've gone on a night out. If you're hungover or you smell of alcohol, the examiner is not going to take you on the test. If they can smell alcohol on you and they think you're drunk or over the limit, or they suspect that you've been smoking some sort of drugs because they can smell it on you, they can just turn around and say, no, sorry, I'm not taking you on the test because I think you're intoxicated. And worst case scenario for you, they could even call the police. So remember, especially with alcohol, it can actually last a lot longer than you expect. If you drink it the night before, the next day you might still be over the limit and you might still be impaired to drive. So if you are going to do your test and you want to go out, just either don't go out or don't drink that night before your test, because you don't want to risk the chances of you being over the limit or being impaired in any way. So those are just some of the things that you should look out for, that you shouldn't do if you want to pass your driving test first time. Let me know if you have any other ones in the comments below, and I'll add them on the next video. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and good luck on your test, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.